Hello, hopefully we are live. So it's 7:30. I said I'd do this live now, so I'm ready. I've eaten my dinner. Hope you're all settled down. I've got a bit of a long one tonight, so I'm going to be replicating that. So yeah, so stick with us as long as you can, and it'd be nice to see some new faces as well if you've got any friends you think might be interested in doing something like this. So we've got watercolour flowers there that I'm going to be doing, showing you how to do all of these. I'll talk you through all the techniques for all of them. They're actually really simple because they're loose ones, so they're not going to be too complicated. And you could do this in any colours you wanted as well. And then the lettering. Well, actually, I'm going to do the lettering first. So the reason being is because if we do the lettering first, then we can build the flowers around it. So, for example, if we wanted to bring the tail of the F down, then I can work the flowers around it. Now I'll have comments coming in, so hello Sharon. I've got my daughter here again with me. She's going to read out any comments so that I don't have to keep reading at the same time. Now they're coming up, but I'm one of these people who can't concentrate on more than one thing at a time, so while I'm looking down painting, she can read out to me and I can answer any questions. So if you have got any questions about either lettering, maybe you've been thinking about having a go, or just watercolours in general, let me know. So I'll start off first of all with the tools that I'm going to use. So obviously I've got some water. Now actually the water I use I always put in a teacup. Okay, it's an old teacup I got from a charity shop, but I used it for part of my wedding decor, so I've always got that with me. I've got my old paint palette. I want to hold this up, but I've got a little bit of paint there that's wet, so a very dirty watercolor palette. Now what I always do is I put paint in this and I never ever wash it, firstly because it makes an amazing prop if you want to do any photography or anything like that, but also these blobs of paint here with watercolor, the great thing is that you can reinvigorate it by adding water to it. So all of these blobs of unused paint I can reuse every time, so I keep doing that. So that's my palette. It's just a plastic one. It was about £1 or £2 from someone like Hobbycraft. It's nothing expensive. And then I've got my watercolors. Now my chosen ones are Winsor & Newton. Every time I love Winsor & Newton, and these are like if you've not used watercolors like these before, they're actually like a gel. They're like a paste, so they're already mixed to a point. And so if you imagine like toothpaste consistency but smooth, and then you add more water to make them more fluid, so you can actually use them directly from the tube, but of course water them down, you get a lot more life out of them. Now the best thing I find about these, rather than using a palette with the dried watercolor in them, is that these seem to be a lot smoother. You don't get the chalky bits in them. So with watercolors, if you want to have a go, you've not bought any before, I would always go with as much as you can afford, because the better quality paint you get, the better quality result you're going to get as well. Okay, and as for my brushes, I've got a real variety here. Now again, these are exactly the same with brushes. The more you can afford to spend on them, the better results you will get. Now you can of course start with inexpensive ones, but I find that in the long run it's going to be affecting the results you get. So if you want things like a fine point, they're going to fray very easily. Now I've got some here that are frayed, but they're my old faithfuls. I've got all sorts here that I won't be using today, so I have different shaped ones. I have flat ones as well, really smooth. I don't even know if I've used that one because it's too nice to use, but a lot of mine have got this point on them, and they're called rounded when they're actually quite wide, but they go to a point. That one's a little bit bent there. I've got my most expensive one was this one. It's actually a Chinese one. It's got some gorgeous writing on the side, so it's got a bamboo handle and it's just beautiful. It is a rounded one again, so it goes to a point. So hello Denise. And then this one as well, it goes to a really fine point. This one's beautiful. So for doing flowers and things, you'll see as I'm using them, and leaves that go wider and into a fine point, perfect. So I've got my variety of brushes and I'll explain why I'm using each one as I go. Okay, and of course with this I've got watercolor paper. Once again, the more you can spend on it, the better quality you'll get, and rubber and pencil. So simple things. So let me just switch you to another view so you can see here. Now this camera here that I've been having some issues with tonight. If the connection gets lost, I'll flip you to the other screen, so just bear with me if it loses. Sometimes it gets a bit jittery, but I'm hoping we'll keep it. So what I'm going to do is first of all start with good old-fashioned here bowl. Now this probably sounds silly, but my bowl, you can see where I got it from. I should cover the name up really. I've actually got a circle template that I've lost, so I've got a clear stencil that's got circles all over it. I usually use that. Now what I'm just doing there is a really rough circle. It doesn't have to be precise, but this is just giving me the rough size that I want. So I've got a guide to go with. I'm going to lightly do that in pencil and then rub it out a little bit as well, just so I can just about see it. It doesn't have to be a circle either. Of course, it could be an oval, a heart. You're not going to get a heart with a bowl, obviously. Or anything like that, or diamond, square, whatever you want, or some corners. You've got a question? No, she's just pointing at me anyway. She's clicking and pointing, but I'm not sure what she wants. Right, so I've also got a kitchen towel here ready to use, and that's really all you need to start to get going. So now I would suggest, if we look at what I've got here, with these I chose purples and pinks. Okay, so the greens, there we go, foliage is nearly always going to be green, but I stuck with really 3 colours. So I've stuck with ultramarine violet, I've got the magenta there, and what was the other one I bought in? Oh, the blue. So I've got cobalt, I can never say it, turquoise. Let's go with turquoise. In fact, there was another one, I think it was indigo, a darker blue. So these, you can see these colours, beautiful colour tones. Now I would stick with those, because with watercolour you can get a variety of shades from just one tube. So actually, where I've got just 4 colours and then the green on top, you see I've got all the lights and darks, and when you start mixing purples and blues as well, you get this sort of result. So let's put that out the way again. Now I've already got some of these in my palette, but what I'm going to do first is the lettering in the middle. So this took me a little while earlier, and this will probably be the bit that takes you the longest, is lining everything up. So I'm going to go again with the phrase that I wrote, April showers bring May flowers. What I did is, because bring is the middle word, and to break up this wording to make it easier to read, I actually put the word bring through the middle here, and I'm just writing on with a pencil first, as I always do. And see, when I start writing, I then stop talking, which isn't good. I'm actually I hope you can just see that. I'll go over it with a paintbrush. There we go. I'm doing it lightly, but I'm bringing elements of each letter up and down and making them a little bit irregular. The reason for that is because if I was to try and do these all the same height, all the same width, all absolutely perfect, they just wouldn't be. So something would stand out as looking wrong. So if I do like the bottom of my R there, just bring that down low, and probably bring the top of this N up as well. For example, my B and my G, I've made those almost symmetrical, in that the centre line comes out a little bit on each one. Let me just go over that a little bit darker for you, so you can really see that, and bring that centre line out. And then I'm going to do my lettering around it. Now, like I say, this did really take me the longest, was the lettering, or planning the lettering. So probably this entire live, start to finish, will be about an hour maybe. I see my daughter's face go, oh, really? You didn't tell me, Mum, it was going to be an hour. So I've got the word bring there. That's going to be in the middle, and that's going to break it up. Okay, so now we need April showers bring May flowers. So I'm going to start at the top here. I'm going to actually use my first one for reference there. So if you sketch out the main body of your words first, and worry about any extra flourishes and such like afterwards. So it's the word April. Now there's the centre letter in April is obviously the R, so making sure that's in the middle. And then just to fill this space, I'm going to put a big loop on the L. I'll go over this in a second. And then this space here that I'm missing, so the circle's coming around here, space that I'm missing here, I can do a flourish in. Okay, so hello Carol. So I'm happy with April. Before I go over that a little bit harder, I'm just going to fit in the word shoes. Shoes? Not shoes. April shoes. April showers. So I'll go quiet when I'm doing this. There we go. So that fits in okay. If you don't have enough room, just simply rub out and start again. April showers. There we go. Now, by putting my letters in, if I go over that a little bit more, I'm going to bring the tail of the A down a little bit lower. By putting that in pencil and doing the letters first rather than last after the flowers, I've now got a template to work around. So if I've got any gaps in the design, or if I've got any letters that are kind of overlapping where the wreath will go, I know whether to fill in or avoid when I'm doing my flowers. Okay, because it's all fairly random. So do my H. Don't forget, your letters don't all have to be identical sizes either, particularly with lettering. There really is a variation, and that gives it that fun look. Like this S to fill this space is going to come down here. So April showers, bring. Now what I did with the flowers, I actually wrote the word flowers first and then fit the May around it. The reason being, the flowers has got a lot of, I call it up and down letters, so a lot of ascenders and descenders. So these are ascenders, the F and the L, where they go upwards. Descenders, like the R, is going to come down lower and such like. So I wanted to make sure that my May, the word May, is going to fit around them nicely. So what I can do now is I can bring the M so it actually sits in here. So the M loops around the L like that. The May, and the Y can come up higher. There we go. So now I'll go over that. I'm not quite happy with that. I think that needs to be a slightly different shape, but this is me being a perfectionist, really. Did you hear that sigh? I'm sure you all heard that. That was my daughter. Now, so can you see that? Let's go over that a bit darker. So now I've got my basic lines. I need to go over with the black paint. Now I'm going to be doing the brush lettering in what I call a true brush lettering style. So rather than using rather than using a pen, I'm actually going to use a paintbrush. There we go. So you can see that. And once I've painted over and it's dry, you can rub any lines out. So I mean, you would do this a lot lighter in pencil, but I've just done it dark enough so that you can see in the camera. I've got some really bright lights on me at the moment, but it doesn't always help, does it, this time of night? It's a bit dark and horrible outside tonight. So I've got a paintbrush here. This is a really fine one. It is a round one. Hi, Sean. It's a really round brush, so it's got a small point to it, but actually it's much like the brush tips. So when you press on it, if I come up, I don't know if that'll focus, it's focused down, it widens, okay, the same as the brush tips do when you press on them. Okay, hello Lynn, thank you all for joining me, everyone. I'm really pleased. You know, there's always the worry when you do your first sort of proper Facebook Live that no one's going to join you. So I'm going to come in with black with this. Doesn't have to be black. I think traditionally black. I'm going to add a little bit more black actually, because I've been using this for weeks and I've never topped it up. So add a little bit more in tonight. And you can always go over, if you're doing watercolours, you can always do it quite watery to start with, quite light if you're a bit nervous about using them, and then go over with a darker colour once you've got your confidence up, because while the letter or the image is wet, you can still add more colour and it will blend in nicely. So I'm just mixing that watercolour. It's a little bit out of the tube, just bring some water in there, so that is like a nice black pool there, beautiful. And then what I do is I make sure it's all smooth by rubbing it round, and then I brush off any excess on the edge of the palette. So I'm going to start at the top, work my way down. I'll do this will dry very quickly, and then we'll work on the wreath afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to start just as you would with brush lettering. We're using light pressure, so as I go up the top of the A, any upstrokes are going to be a light pressure, so that's how thin my paintbrush can go. And then here, a bit more on my brush, so it's really quite loaded, and press down, and I'm getting that thicker line. Okay, now you can go in and smooth this. Now what you'll notice with the brush lettering I do with a pen, it's usually done in one go, so I'll just go along and I won't go back over anything else. So I've got a comment there from Sonia. Hang on a minute.
Hi Lou, just got
Her mum's taxi service on, yes. I know exactly what that's like, mum's taxi service. I've sent the boys, as in my husband and my son, are up on the PlayStation, or they're upstairs anyway, I presume. I think that's the only thing they do up there. And then I've got my daughter with me here, thankfully, tonight. But you have to come in, look, she's putting her thumb, that's my daughter. So last night was very busy though. Last night was hairdressers for my daughter, and then parents' evening for my son. It was just running around like crazy. Right, so so what I'm doing here is with the paintbrush, I'm pressing down. I'm using what you call a round paintbrush. So if you're in the art shop and you're looking at all the brushes and thinking, oh, what's the difference? Why there's so many different bristles to them? What do they all do? The round ones will give you the lovely look for lettering. So the fine lines that you want, and then the thick lines when you press down like so. And you see where that's gone a little bit rough. I wish I could zoom into this, but if I zoom into this, you'll see it. You'll see my head, which you really don't. Now I'm getting whispers in my ear. Someone said hi to Isabel. So are you going to say hi back, Isabel?
Hi.
Hi. She's a very shy and very temperamental 13-year-old. So so you'll just get a hi. There we go. So I keep getting distracted. I think you may have just lost me for a second there. There we go. So thin lines and then pressing down with the paintbrush. Now, as I was saying, with my at any time with my brush lettering with my pens, what I would usually do is go over the letters once. I may touch up a little bit, but it won't be a lot. With a brush, as you can see, I'm actually doing it in stages. So I've still got my thick and thin lines, but I'm doing it little bits at a time. Now at the end of each letter, I'm also adding this little, you're eating sweets, I can hear them. I can hear them rustling. She's trying to quietly eat sweets. This isn't the cinema, you know. There we go. So I will stop and I will go back, because I'll have to reapply paint to the brush. There's nothing wrong with taking it slowly. If you want to go over everything in with light pressure, so get thin lines over the entire lot of writing, and then go back and add in your thick lines, there's no, like I just did there with the O there. There's no reason why you can't do that. But it's really good to practice with other mediums other than just the pen. The brush, for example, getting thick and thin. Bring the W up there. There we go. Whoops. Make that a little bit thicker. So I keep going back and I keep readjusting. And you can do this. So you don't have to do it in black. It would be really cool actually if you did this in 2 different colours as well. There we go. And then start pressing down. S's are difficult. I know a lot of people struggle with S's. What I tend to do with the S's is my pressure, my higher pressure, so the thicker line starts. So I do the first curve at the top. When I get to about 1/3 of the way down, so about here, then I start pressing down. I've got a thumbs up from Isabel. Did you have a comment? Sonia, Isabel, you've been doing really well at practicing. That's all I saw and it's gone off my screen now. She put a thumbs up, Sonia, whatever you said, thank you very much. So now I'm on to my letters. Now don't stress too much about these being perfect. It's harder in the brush pen, but like I say, if you've made them irregular, then they should be absolutely fine. I've actually adjusted my position here. I'd probably look very strange if you could see how I'm sitting to write this. I've just adjusted my position. I'm just using more straight lines with this. And the same pressure, so keeping the lines quite thin and neat, bringing that N up to fill that gap. I'm going to put a little more paint in my palette. Oh no, that might be all right. Bring, okay. And then the M, press down here, you get the thicker line. And if you're doing this and as you're painting you make a mistake, you can, with watercolour, it's very forgiving, you can actually correct yourself. If you quickly pick up what you can with kitchen towel and then with clean water re-dampen the area where you've made a mistake and go back over it, and very often you'll be able to pick up quite a bit of the colour. I'll try to show you that in a little while we're doing the flowers. So bring this line. That line wasn't quite as thick as I like it, but you know, can't be perfect all the time. You'll get some days you're painting, you're colouring, you're card making, you're scrapbooking. Some days it'll be, oh, lovely, and then other days you think, oh no, that really didn't go right. That M isn't my best, but you know, it happens. Press down, even with the smaller words. I'll try and get the thick and thin lines if I can. There we go. Hi Carol, I'm glad it's mesmerising. It is. I'm trying. I usually go quiet, so it's actually really hard for me to be talking whilst I'm doing this. It's a bit like being at work actually. So when we're on Create and Craft, can you imagine if we were demonstrating and we went quiet while we were doing it? I don't think I'd be allowed back. So it's a bit like that actually. I need to just keep talking even if it's gobbledygook. But I like this. I can say all sorts of things. I was doing a live or a video. I was recording a video I think the other day, and I actually burnt my finger with a glue gun. Oh, it was the shoe. So if you haven't seen the shoe that I decorated, was that yesterday? That was yesterday. I did that yesterday, and there is a section in it where I actually burned my finger quite badly with a hot glue gun. But I was very good and I didn't swear, but because this was my video and I wasn't on Create and Craft, I did say, don't swear, don't swear, don't swear. And I could acknowledge that I did it. Right, so nearly finished the wording now. I love to go back and watch myself doing this, and I don't know if anyone does that. If you do any sort of lettering, calligraphy, anything like that, if you sometimes go film just with your phone, just film what you do and then go back and watch it, it is, like Carol said, it is mesmerising. It really is. Isabel's giggling. What are you giggling at? I'm going to put some more paint on here.
I don't really know.
You don't know. She's one of them. You giggling at me or a comment?
Someone said they wish their hand was as steady as yours.
This takes a lot of practice actually, being steady. Now I am resting on here, so it's easier if you're right-handed than left-handed. But it's the sort of thing, you can see I'm holding my brush really quite close. And I've actually built up the muscles in my wrist, which my husband thinks is absolutely hilarious because he is a child. But I have got really strong wrist muscles, purely from doing this. It's the muscles that you very rarely use otherwise, and you can almost hover over the paper. Sorry, I've got too much paint on there. I need to just water that down a bit. Hover over the paper quite steady, but that's what we do our drills for. So my white clean sheets, which by the way, thank you very much for selling them out again the other day when I was on. I've got something on my where's that scrap piece of, can I have that old piece of kitchen towel please, Isabel? I've got a little something on here, but I've also got black paint, so I don't want to put it on my clean towel. There we go. So thank you for buying the white clean sheets again. We sold them all out. I don't know when they'll get them back in stock, except I do have new products coming out in April, which I absolutely love. I'm really, really excited about them. I can't tell you too much at the moment, but the white clean sheets will be back in stock. Of course, we'll bring those back ready for that launch. But also we have some new pens, and they are amazing. I mean, I'm really excited. I can't wait to start doing samples and things and showing you sneak peeks of those. But I've also got a new product that I've developed to help you with things like this. So when you're spacing, so it's not necessarily about getting the thick and thin lines in your letters, but it's going to help you with that spacing out of words. So keep an eye out for those. And it's not all big this time. We've got big and small, but I can't tell you any more. I really can't. Okay, so there's my letters. So they are all done. I'm just checking I've got that all spelt correctly. April showers bring May flowers. Yes. Now the reason I love this quote, it's one of my favourite quotes, is because both my children were born in May. So I always think Mayflower, they're my Mayflowers. Even though neither of them were due in May, they both arrived early, but still. So okay, so what I need to do now, Isabel, could I have the heat gun, please? I'm going to very quickly whiz this with a heat gun. I don't want to do it too much. I don't want to buckle my paper because I haven't put water on it and such like. But what I want to do is dry it off enough so that I can erase those pencil lines afterwards later. But also, I can go round here with the other watercolour and doesn't matter if I lean on it. Okay, so just bear with me for the noise for a moment. It's going to be a bit loud, so I'll try and keep it as far away from the microphone up here as I can, but I'll whiz that dry. There we go. So I think that's the worst of it off now. Let's just see if there's any shiny bits. There's a little bit in the middle of the S there's a little bit shiny, so you can see that, but otherwise it should be okay. Now I'm going to go around my circle. So what I'm going to do not sigh like that. I know you're a teenager.
I was yawning.
So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to really show up that circle now with the pencil lines, but not with flowers initially. I'm going to put a base layer down. This means you can get away with actually doing less of the flowers. So I'm going to wet my brush and I'm going to turn this over. So you can see this pinky colour that I've got in here. This was the magenta, and I'm going to use a really big brush as well. I mean, this is a really big fluffy brush. I mean, you could gloss your woodwork with this. And I'm going to drag some of that paint out of the palette onto this part, add even more water as well, so I'm really watering that down, and I'm going to splodge. So I am really going to splodge. Now I'm avoiding, I can hear my daughter going I'm actually avoiding the letters here, and then picking some up as well. I'll show you why in a moment. I'll let that sit for a minute. So I'm just working around. I'm not going to do the entire circle. I can hear her going, what are you doing, Mum? Now I actually love this effect without the flowers, because if you were to do this in all different colours, can you imagine, like a rainbow all the way round? That would be lovely. So I'm just bringing it out of the circle but not into the circle, because that black paint, you get any water on that will sort of bleed a little bit there.
Someone said they missed the beginning.
So if you have missed some of this, it will stay on my Facebook. The video will stay here, so you can always go back and watch it. Absolutely. So can I have a name, Isabel?
Laurie Vic.
Where are we looking? Oh yes, so yeah, no problem. If you've missed it, then I mean, if you continue watching now if you want to, or you can go back and watch it in a little while. Probably another 20 minutes, half hour, I'll be finished this, and then you can come back, check back and watch it. So it'll stay there, it'll stay on my newsfeed. You haven't really missed too much. So I've done the lettering there, and I've just added this as a base. Now that's quite dark, and I don't really want it as dark as that. So what we're going to do now is just move these out of the way. I'm taking a fresh sheet of kitchen towel, and I'm going to lay it over very gently. I'm just going to drop it down for a moment, lay it down gently, and you can see it starting to lift up the excess. And what I don't want to do is spread it any further or mix it, but I'm just very, very gently tapping it over where the watercolour is to lift off a lot of the excess. Okay, there we go. So I haven't smudged anything. Now these blobs, I just bring my kitchen towel to a point, usually around the corner or the edge, and if you just touch the colour there, that will soak it up. So now we've got a nice base to be working with. Okay, and when you've got the excess there, I can go in with some more and just do it again. So I really want this quite light, but that just means with my flowers I can do even less flowers, and it won't look like there's gaps in them. So if we look, while that's just lifting that up, if we look at this closely, actually you'll see I've got quite a few gaps, but because of the colour in the background you can't see the gaps as well. So that's why I put this base down. Now this base could be green, it could be absolutely any colour you like. So you can see now, this is why you shouldn't use the expensive kitchen towel that has patterns in it, because you end up with these little lines. But we're covering it over with flowers anyway. Sorry, I've got hiccups. I did rush my dinner to get this done in time. So that there is my base. Now we're going to start on the flowers. So always rinse your brushes out, okay, and always dry them before you put them away. Now what I do is I wrap, let's just find a clean bit, I wrap the kitchen towel around the brush, squeezing it gently, so squeezing it out, and then I drag it this way, squeezing it, so I'm actually pulling it back into that point there, and then I just stand it upright in my jar. Do you want to see my jar of paint, my paintbrush jar? I love this. It's like an old, almost like a, not a mason jar, but so they stand in there, and while it's drying, just keep bringing that to a point. So that's where my brushes sit usually. So that will keep them nice and ready for next time, and keep them with that point. If you leave them, this is one I left. Look at this. So it's now, it was a rounded brush with a point, and it's not anymore. It's frayed because I left that sitting in the cup of water overnight by accident. So it was sat, if I show you, it was sat at that angle, poor thing. So now it's a little bit bedraggled, but I can still use it. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in one of these brushes. This is a rounded brush, a little bit of water on it to soften the bristles. I think I've got some purple on my palette that I can reinvigorate. There we go. So there's that purple. That was a nice hard blob of purple, so usually you would wash that away, but now just leave it on there, build up this gorgeous palette, and I can actually do a whole painting without using any new ink as well. So this is a violet colour, absolutely gorgeous. It's actually called aquamarine violet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one colour, and I'm going to work with the biggest flowers first and make sure they're nicely spaced around the circle, and then after that I'm going to go on and fill in with smaller ones. So quite a bit of water on your brush as well, so you've got quite a watery consistency. Now for the first flower I'm going to do it with a what I call a curved bottom. So I'm going to brush like so, a bit of a blob, and then I'm going to sweep there. So the bottom of this is smooth. There we go. So I've got a curved bottom to it, and then I'm going to come in and do ruffled top like so. Now I'm doing loose, like I say, loose watercolors, okay, very loose. So that probably looks a bit strange at the minute, but it will come to in a little while. Now while that's still damp, I'm going to add a little bit of this blue. So I've got a nice blue here, so pick up a bit of the blue and just touch into the purple. Okay, so when that dries, it will dry a little bit lighter, and you'll see that blue coming through as well. Now I'm not going to clean the blue off, I'm going to carry on. Need a bit more water though, so bring some more water into this, and then I'm going to do a really splodgy flower. So I'm going to do 4 or 5 petals to this. I'm going to leave the center open, so I'm just going to do quite a large one like so. There we go. And then again I'm going to bring in some blue and just touch on here. If you need more, I think I need a bit more blue in here, so I'll add some water, swirl that round. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing there. And add some blue to this too, and that will pick up. Now I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to leave that, and what I'll do is when they're dry I'll come back and add in the what's it called, the centers in there. So leave those for now. So now go in again with the purple. So I mean, experiment with different styles. So for this one I'm going to try and do 4 petals like so, pressing down. Now wherever your paintbrush picks up last, that's where you're going to have the darkest colour. So if I leave my paintbrush down in the centre like so, that colour will be more concentrated in the centre. Okay, so if you drag it back to the centre, that will be darker there. Okay, hope that makes sense. And put some blue in there. Now if you're thinking actually that my flowers are looking quite dark, if you wet your brush, rinse off any colour, dab it quite dry, and then lay it back over, hopefully you can see that it actually picks up some of the colour, and you can brush that off and lighten it up. So for example, the tops of that, we usually call these peonies with this shape, I can lift up some of that excess colour there that's forming on top. And then if you go in and do it once more, you can really bring it back to quite light. Now where this is handy is if you're adding highlights. So at the side here, if I was to, let's just clean that off. It's called having a thirsty brush because it's thirsty, it sucks, it drinks up the liquid. You see I've got the lighter colour there. Hello Bonnie, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. It's like I say at the beginning, it's very nerve-wracking doing Facebook Lives because you never know if you're going to be doing it to yourself or whether anyone can join you. So I tried to do a time when hopefully as many of you could join as possible. So there you go, I've lifted some colour up. So I need to go round and do some more of these flowers. So some big purple ones. So I'm going to do them really quite splodgy. So what you'll find as well is that varying the different shape of brush will help, so you'll get a slightly different look. So that one I really did just splodge down in 5 places, but I really like that look. I'm going to change in a moment to the brush that I've got that's frayed and show you the different look I get with that one. Also, if you leave gaps between some of your petals, that can also give you a different look as well, and that's actually what I call a true watercolour look, because if we have a look at, if I do one here now, so in the purple, so the cardstock I'm using is, oh, it's a watercolour cardstock. In fact, Isabel, could you go into the cupboard behind me and get the big pad of watercolour cardstock out, please? It's down there, and I'll tell you the name of it. I forget, but Isabel will get the pad out for me and I'll have a look at the cover. It's in that cupboard behind there, please, darling.
This one?
So I'm using a different brush now. Yep, down the bottom. Can you see it? On the right hand side. I'm very organised, I know exactly where it is. Right, so I've got a different brush, so I haven't got quite such a point to it. Yes, that's the one. So this one is the one I'm using, is this gold line, so 100 sheets. So it wasn't, I must admit, it wasn't cheap. Okay, I don't think I've got a price. Oh, there you go, £18.10. This was from an art shop in my local town. Lovely art shop, but it's really, really nice because it's actually not too textured, so it's reasonably smooth. It's a good weight as well, so I mean whether you're in America or whether you're in the UK, you'll be able to see the weight there, so it is good, and it's a good size. I can actually cut this down if I want to do smaller pieces, so I've got lots and lots there. So actually for under £20, 100 sheets or even more if you're cutting it down is really good. So that's called Gold Line, so I definitely recommend that, and that will last me quite a while. If I'm doing anything that's not so special, I can use a cheaper one, but I find with cheaper paper it will buckle. So what I'm going to do here is another big petal. I'm going to do 4 petals, but to get what I call a true watercolour look, I'm going to join 3 of them just in the centres there, so it looks as if one of them has kind of lost its way a little bit, so you've got a gap there. So if we do that again, so if you study watercolour flowers, actually, I don't know, have a look at Pinterest for example, a lot of them, a lot of the designs will have gaps between them, like so. You fill these in with little dots, but you can see the little gaps I'm leaving there. So Sonia, my pens work on wood too. They do work on wood. You have to be careful because wood is obviously textured, so if you're going to use any sort of textured material like wood or canvas, they will hold fine. They may bleed, it depends on the wood. They could bleed a little bit, but actually if you've got a coating already on the wood, that would be better, so like a varnish maybe. Sealing it, I would suggest sealing it with something like Mod Podge afterwards. Allow it to dry. Now my pens will actually dry on glass and plastic and things like that, so you'll notice if you've got the white clean sheets, they dry really quickly. So maybe if you seal it with Mod Podge, absolutely fine. Depends what you want to use it for. I suppose if it's outdoor use, absolutely. But yes, they will work on wood. Just be careful of them fraying though. You might want to have a second one as such, so you're not using the best pen on wood. There, sorry, I'm getting, there we go, leave a little bit of a gap. That one went a little bit skewy, so my flowers actually get bigger when they don't quite go right, they get bigger and bigger until they do go right. Oh, too much paint on that. So I've gone in now with a quite a bright pink, the magenta, and it's quite concentrated. I'm trying to do flowers of 4 leaves. There's a lot of different types of flowers I could show you, but do you know what, if you've not tried this before, or you're new to watercolour, there's only so much that you really want to be thinking about at any one time. So I'll just show you a couple of them. So these little ones, I'm doing 4 petals from the middle. I'm making them quite, almost like if you know what a cornflower is. So they're quite, what's the word? They're not neat or rounded or anything. There you go, so I've got the little gap in the middle. They're quite spiky, misshapen. And I'm spreading them around the piece. The rougher you go, the better the look. As you can see, the quicker I go with a flower, the better it comes out. The more time I take over it, the more it looks like I've forced it too much. And I always leave one petal out that's either not quite joined or there's a gap somewhere. So Sonia said, thank you, you bought 6 pens. Yeah, keep one separate for things like wood and canvas and such, like anything that's a rough material. Absolutely, keep one separate for that, because that will be the one that frays. Do I do this watercolour, or is it better use? I love the paint. Watercolour pencils I find harder. Is that what you were telling me, Isabel?
Yeah.
Yes. So watercolour pencils I find a lot harder. For the blending, that watercolour pencils are great if you've got really precise detail. But I'd recommend these paints for these. If you missed the beginning, these are the paints I'm using. I've got lots of them here, but I've got the Winsor and Newton, the little ones. Now again, these are, I think they're about £7 or £8 per tube. So they're not the cheapest on the market. There are cheap ones, but these are very good quality. They mix beautifully. I never get any of the sort of chalkiness to them at all. They're very, very smooth. They're a bit like a gel. I mix them with water so I can get all the different shades from them. I have got, in fact, if I just bring this down, I'll show you the range of colours that I've got. And this, I have also got a yellow somewhere that I've mislaid. I think, otherwise these are all the colours I've got at the moment. And there's, like I say, there's a yellow somewhere, so that is enough for all the colours and all the shades, because you can mix them as well. So I'm never missing a colour with these. Let me do last sort of pink flower.
Do you sell your pens in the US?
In the US, you'll have to have a look on either createandcraft.com or Crafting. I'm not sure if I should know this. I'm not sure if Crafting actually shipped to the US. If anyone knows, do let me know, because I'm not entirely sure. So if Crafting shipped to the US, then great. Have a look on there. So it's crafting.co.uk, but they may ship out. If not, createandcraft.com do ship to the US. It's really hard for me to check. I'm sure it is. Yes, we do ship them. We do ship them from createandcraft.com, because I had a statement recently. So yes, if you have a look on createandcraft.com. Who asked that question, Isabel?
Sharon Bryan.
Oh, hi Sharon. Doesn't sound like you've seen us on Create and Craft before, by the sounds of it. But have a look on there. If you type in on Create and Craft, just type in Lou Collins in the search bar, and you should come up with all the products that we have left. We've sold out of a lot of them. We're waiting for the new launch in April. Now my flowers are getting smaller and smaller. I'm now going in with a deeper colour, this gorgeous aquamarine sort of colour, and I'm filling in gaps. So where am I looking? Does Isabel do any crafts? I don't know why she wouldn't read that out. She just said that. Isabel does a little bit of everything with me, really. Don't you, Isabel?
Yeah.
What's your favourite one to do?
Probably brush lettering.
Hey, yes, she's really good at brush lettering. She started at the same time as me. We both sort of started together, didn't we? We went to the shop. So I don't know if you've ever seen Create and Craft. You've watched my shows and you've seen the stories of or I've told you the stories of how I started brush lettering. and I said, you know, I started, and we went to the shops, and we spent hundreds on different pens and things because we didn't know what we were buying. This is why I developed my own pens, to let beginners know what you really need to get started. It was me and Isabel going around the shops, didn't we? We bought everything, all different papers and pens, and then I've bought brushes as well. Now this black should be plenty dry enough for me to now lean on to come over here. So I'm just filling in with these little turquoise flowers. I'm going to do the leaves in a minute, and I'm really just doing sort of here just little stars because they're so small. I just want to do little blobs of colour like so. I've got another question. Would you like to read it out?
Sharon Bryan said she was asking about the paints.
Asking about the paints. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Can you scroll back, Isabel? What was the first? What did Sharon ask about the paint? Ah, yes, watercolour pencils. Watercolour pencils are brilliant for detail. But for this, I'd definitely go with the paints, I think. And do you know what, with these I'm not wasting anything either. Pencils are lovely, but with these I put them in the palette, and I'm always going to use them, so I would go with those as opposed to a pencil. So hopefully that will answer for you. But I mean, I do have pencils. I have some lovely pencils, but they're more for detail work, and a lot of the pencils, watercolour pencils I have, I end up actually using more for colouring rather than using the water with them. So what I'm doing now is I've just got a fine brush and a little bit of black, and I'm just going into the centre of the flowers before I add the leaves.
Another question.
Bringing in these. What's the question, Isabel?
Are C&C going to stock the watercolour paints you use?
Create and Craft. I'm not sure if they are. They've got watercolour paints on the website. I'm sure they are. I got these from my local craft shop, which is Hobbycraft, just up the road from me, which is really dangerous. So they do those ones in there. I will definitely recommend it, but I know they do have other brands there at the moment. So I'm just doing tiny little dots here, and wet my brush and just bleed these lightly. But I've actually gone back over onto dry colour here, so you can see that the dry colour then doesn't bleed too much, and they stay quite defined and in the centre. And now I'm just going to do the leaves. So for this I need a paintbrush that is rounded, and it's quite long as well and comes to a point. And I'm going to wet it and put it into the green. I've got different colour greens here. Let me see, which ones have I got? So this one here, I've got a few here. Now some are quite a bluey green. This one in here I know is quite blue, but this one's a nice sort of natural green. So I'll start with this one. Now I usually tend to do my leaves quite watery, not too dark. So I'm going to come out. So with this technique I'm going to start thin. I'm going to press my paintbrush down as I drag it along, and then come up to quite thin again. Okay, and then do that this other side as well, and end up with this sort of shape. That's actually really quite a bluey green, but never mind, we'll go with it. So there's no rhyme or reason for where I'm putting these. I'm just going randomly, so they're kind of mostly facing outwards. You can see here I've got a gap in that one. I'm going to leave that because I do like that look. Some are going some way, some are going others, but just pressing down, pulling up, and coming to a point at the end. That's all I'm doing. Where I've got a bit here, I can just fill in this gap a little bit, come towards the word like so. It's really easy. Yeah, Carol, it's really easy to do. It is a good technique. It's actually my favourite. There aren't many other varieties of leaves to do that I do. I find this one by far the easiest. So let's see, filling in gaps. I think with watercolour you can do too much sometimes, so sometimes it's better to keep it simple like this. I'm going to have to move my paper in a minute. There's only so much I can do at this angle, so I'm going to bring it round a little bit. When I was setting the camera up, actually, this was back to front, and it was a few minutes to to 7:30, I was going, oh, it's back to front. I can't do it back to front because I'm lettering. It will look really strange. And somehow it magically turned itself round, thankfully. So a few more leaves here, and then I will change the colour green and fill in with a few more different colours as well, and then that will almost be it. So look at where you've got gaps, and they don't all have to be as big as that either. There we go, another one up here, I think. Are you yawning, Isabel? Right, Isabel's bored, she's yawning.
No, I'm not.
Long day at school. You can go wash up or something if you want to.
No, I'm in charge of the bus.
There we go. So you can see it's coming together now. What I'm going to do is get another colour. So I've got this lovely colour here. Oh, I'm not even going to try and say it's a French. Let me do this. Okay, where are we? I don't know if you can see that. Gorgeous colour. It's almost like a grey green. Okay, thank you, Helen. Hello. I didn't realise you joined us. I can't actually see who's joined us and who's not, because people are coming and going all the time, but thank you, Helen. So I'm going to use this grey green and just use this, but I'm going to use it ever so watered down. So I'm going to pull the colour away from the blob of paint, really water it down, and then go in. Very similar technique to before, but I'm going to use just one side, whereas before I was doing 2 strokes. I'm just going to do it one, and so pressing down with the paintbrush and bringing it to a point. Because these are lighter, the effect it gives you is that they're almost in the background because they're more watery. Be careful with your palette as well that you're not mixing too much with other colours underneath. I've actually got a red underneath there, which is really dangerous. It could end up looking very much like it's a reddy browny colour with the green, so be careful of that. And also I've just stuck my hand in there. It happens, and I did mean it happens. Right, there we go. So just work your way round. Now I would always stick to one colour at a time rather than chopping and changing between doing a purple flower, then doing a blue flower, then doing a green leaf. Do all of the same colour at one time, and that way you can really space out and balance it. So I've made sure at the beginning all the purple flowers, I did them first, so I got them evenly spaced around, and you don't end up with a big cluster of purples here and blues here, because that's when you step back at it and look at it later and you think, oh wow, I missed out, there's a big gap of purple there, or something similar. So do all of one colour and work your way around the wreath, making sure you're catching everything. A few more of these. I'll just finish off with some splatters as well. So
Sharon Bryan said she's watching on her phone and keeps getting phone calls, so she's going to have to fast forward through the replay for the parts she missed.
That's a good idea. You can like I say, you can absolutely watch this back. It will be on my Facebook for a long time, so you're very popular then if you keep getting phone calls. I don't think I've had any.
And then 2 people said this is beautiful and they're really loving this.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm hoping now I've got sort of all the setup. I've got my lights, so I'm hoping you can see everything. I'm hoping to be able to do this more often. A big thing with sort of Facebook Lives, I mean, I don't know how long I've been working on the TV now, but still I find at home doing Facebook Lives, talking to the camera, quite nerve-wracking. So to do it with my family around is quite a big thing. I've always tried to do videos and such like during the day when they're out, but do you know what, I've just bitten the bullet and I've sort of got them involved as well. So the boys are upstairs hiding, my daughter's here. Don't forget, I have started, I've got a website or a blog. It's very exciting. I'll actually hopefully soon have some products on there to sell as well. That is all I'm telling you, that really is. I'm very excited about it, but we shall see. But my website, you can see down the bottom, so my website is, you can't see it down the bottom, where is it? Yes, it is there. It's loucollins.blog. Pop on there. I'd love it if you could follow me on there as well. I've got a YouTube channel too, which I'm trying to build up as well, so pop along and like everything on Facebook. Obviously you found me on Facebook if you're watching this, so please do like my page so I know that you're there. Things like this. So what I'm just doing here is splatters, so I'm just finishing off with one of the main colours, and I'm just splattering around the wreath, trying to keep it away from the middle, and just go around. 4 new comments. Do you want to read them out to me?
So Jody something
hi Jody something
has been painting along with you and has learned a lot.
Oh, I'm really pleased. That's lovely. Thank you, Jody. It's nice to know people are painting along as well.
And then Laurie Vic said you're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
Tina Goodwin
said
you're doing a great job with the help of your daughter.
Thank you, Tina. She's not bad, is she? That's my daughter, not Tina.
And then Sharon Bryan said this is nice and the time is perfect for me. And then Carol Rooney said this is so beautiful.
Oh, lovely. Excellent. Okay, so that is about it. So you can see I splattered around the edge. Thank you so much for all your comments. I really appreciate them. This is actually the cleanest I think my workspace has ever stayed whilst I'm working as well. So it is as quick as that, really. A lot of the flowers are almost constructive splatters, so splatters that I've tried to keep within an area slightly, but you know, have some fun with it, and you can do absolutely any colours. So maybe it'd be really nice if you change the colours up. So I've got a pink and orange there, and then throw in the turquoise blue. That would make a lovely wreath as well. So you really can play, or just do white flowers. So white flowers you'd actually do as a pale grey, and add the shadows, the dark and lights would be with greys there. You can go over these too. Say I've got here our sort of peony is quite purple. I can just pick up my blue here, and now it's dry, I can go over it and add in some blue as well, and that will be a much stronger colour than blending it in while it's still wet. So there's all different options for you. Like I say, I hope to do more of these now my family are worked round. I will read through all the comments in a little while. I've kept it to under an hour, so thank you so much. Let me just flip you back so I'm still here. This is my day off hair and face. But so if we see here, this is the one. If I hold this up, what I can do now is erase all the pencil marks once it's completely dry. So leave it flat for as long as possible. When it's dry, you can actually take a rubber in there, and what's really cool is that you can actually rub over the watercolour and rub most of the pencil out from underneath without affecting the watercolour on top. So have a go at that. I just do it very, very lightly with my eraser, only really around the words. I don't need to do it around the flowers. You can't see anything, but can you see now why we did the splatters at the beginning, the circle splatters? That has really just filled a lot of it in. So you can go in now and do the shadows around the lettering and the highlights that I always do when I'm doing the shows. Please pop along and follow my blog, like the Facebook page, which is where you're watching me, so I'm hoping you found that anyway. Instagram, YouTube, I'm on all of those, and I do post different things often on different channels, so to make sure you don't miss anything like this, please go along and sign up to all of those. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for your questions and your comments. I really appreciate it, and I hope within the next week or so, I'm really busy at Create Craft actually for a little while, but I'm hoping to get another few of these. If you've got things that you'd like to see, whatever style of craft it is, whether it's within card making or scrapbooking or inking and stamping, distressing things, die cutting, obviously painting, lettering, anything like that, anything you want to see, drop me a comment or a message, let me know. This is her waving goodbye, I think, with her elbow. Let me know, and then I can put together a video. So this video came from a comment in my brush lettering group yesterday. If you're not part of that as well, actually, if you pop along onto my page and have a look at the community, you'll see that you've got I've got Lou Collins brush lettering. Join the group. We've got over 500 members now, so and post in there your lettering. Even if you've never started, if you're just thinking about having a go, pop on there and have a go. Have a look at what we're all doing, and it might encourage you to have a go, be a complete beginner. Most people on there are, to be honest. A few of us have been doing it a little while, but most people are beginners and just kind of watching, so you can do that. So this came from last night. I put a comment in the group and just said, you know, I'm going to do some lettering. What do you think I should do? And that's where this came from. So people just said watercolour flowers, I'd like to see those, and some lettering. So yeah, let me know, because it's really hard to keep thinking about what different videos everyone wants. So thank you all very much. Goodbye from me, goodbye from Isabel.
Bye.
Here's a wave, stick your hand in in the pyjamas, and have a good evening. I hope to see you all soon. Bye bye.